Good morning, Hare Krishna. Welcome back to the live session of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today, I thought I would speak to all of you about the uncertain times that we all are facing and the resultant fear because of that we are going through. So, I want to refer to something that we, especially those of us who have been in the professional world, dealing with the corporate world or the military or the education segment, to have heard of the term called VUCA. VUCA basically had a version 1 and version 2 of it, and the part 1 basically meant volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So we referred to this world as the VUCA world, and the individual organizations recognized the need to prepare ourselves for facing the VUCA world. VUCA 2.0 is actually almost like what we figured out in the many number of years that passed in between, which is like about 30 to 40 years, when we realized that what is important to focus on is the response, the preparedness that we need, knowing well that the world is a VUCA world. And the VUCA 2.0 is defining V as vision, U understanding, C courage, and A adaptability. So these could be the ways in which we could deal with the VUCA world. So today, I just wanted to focus on what we have been reading everywhere, hearing from everywhere, even probably feeling within ourselves about the uncertainty facing all of us. Now, we feel the factor of uncertainty is highlighted because of the COVID-19 pandemic that has spread globally. But let's think for a while and see, is the uncertainty increased or our awareness about that uncertainty has increased? You will agree with me that uncertainty always existed, has existed, is existing, and will continue to exist. That's nothing new. We live in an uncertain world. We could not predict anything in our lives, frankly, with certainty. We have assumptions, we have expectations. We think ideally that's how things should be going by how we see on an average things going around us. But frankly, there is no certain way in which you can predict how your life would be going to be. And it has never been predictable. Each one of us is going through a life of unpredictability, uncertainty, ambiguity all the time. There's nothing new in that. It's our awareness about it that these kind of pandemics give rise to. Did we know when we were born? Did we know before being born that we will be born? Where we will be born? How we will grow in that environment? What will we end up studying? What will we end up doing in our lives? Who will we end up and when will we end up probably marrying? Will we have children or will not have children? When will we have? Will it be a boy, girl, whatever? Do we know how long are we going to live? Do we know with certainty how our life is going to be, or the life of our loved ones is going to be, whether it is our parents, our children, our spouse, our friends? No, nothing is known. That is the reality. By closing our eyes and running away from that reality is not going to change the reality. So frankly, the pandemic has not changed too many things, but it's our awareness towards some very basic facts is what is giving rise to this kind of fear. By running away from fear, you can't deal with fear. If you want to really deal with fear, you have to learn on the means of dealing with it. And friends, you will agree with me that one of the best ways of dealing with any kind of fear, uncertainty, etc., is to gain some knowledge about it first. What is it? First of all, become aware. What is it that we are afraid of? Then try to understand, how do we mitigate that fear? By doing what can we actually face that fear, overcome that fear? By just being fearful, it's not going to help us. But we have to know how to deal with that fear that we have. We have to even know whether that fear is real or not. Right? So I just wanted to share with all of you for the next few minutes before we start our question and answer sessions as to how we can look at this from the spiritual context. So I was reading about, and I have been being a leadership coach and doing a lot of training programs, coaching. I do deal with the questions related to VUCA and such. And I thought I would here, talk about a few things that may be interesting and see how we can understand it from the perspective of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the texts of that nature. So before I continue, I have a request. Since I do video recording of these sessions, I would request all of you participating to put yourself on mute and also put off your camera, because every time you even make a movement of your end, the full screen capture is of yours, and actually it's me, I'm talking. So sometimes a video for viewing later is not appropriate, because either we have a blank screen or a screen showing one of you instead of showing the person who is actually speaking. So may I request all of you to please mute yourself and also shut off your videos for now. When you want to speak, of course, you can unmute yourself and put the camera on as well. So now look at this. VUCA, again, I would like to go over the full form of this. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Very quickly, let us look at what does V mean. When you live in a world that's volatile, which basically means, so many dynamic changes happening, the way each one of us might respond to it is very different. And we need to become aware of that. That change happens, sometimes drastic change happens, and the way each one of us responds to such change is very different and unique. Or uncertainty is usually caused because of lack of information. You talk about C, which is complex. Things are complex because of the interconnectivity and interdependence of, the multiple components in a system. A is ambiguity. The difference between ambiguity and uncertainty is that for uncertainty, usually the relevant information is not available. But ambiguity is when relevant information is available, but the overall meaning is still unknown. So now I would like to actually, relate to this, to the life itself, the world that we live in, and how this is true for all of us. Volatile, yeah, change. Change, as many people have said, is the only constant and sure thing. Change is sure to happen. Look at our own lives. The way we were born, from that day till today, and we know for sure that going forward, with every day, we ourselves have been changing. Almost everything about us, from the physical dimension, mental dimension, emotional dimension, spiritual dimension, we are consistently changing. And because of that change, we are a different entity, almost on a daily basis. We also know that a lot of this change is internal, but also some of it is a result of our external environment, which is also changing. You get up every morning, say at the same time, 6 o'clock, you go out and look out of your window. Nothing looks the same. Try to take a picture of that scene every day for 5 days. And and I know that no two pictures taken from the same place at the same time even look the same. Things are changing. Whether we like it, we don't like it, we want to accept it, we don't want to accept it, it is changing. So I think it's good. The earlier we can become aware of it, the earlier we can accept this, it is going to be good for us. So nothing is same. Not me, not you, not anything around us. So even before we make a judgment about ourselves, I am good at this, I am bad at that, he is like that, she is like that, they are like that. We even categorize people according to their, economic status, social status, religious status, caste, creed, etc. But before we make any such judgment, let's be aware of this fact that every single person, every single thing, every moment is actually changing. And you know how this coronavirus or COVID is making us become aware of this? Even that virus, which is supposed to be a non-living entity by itself, is mutating and changing even before we understand the first type and its impact on human and how to tackle that. We already have the second and the third version of it out and impacting us. And because its impact is so huge and it's done like at the same time across the globe, we are not able to ignore it or go past it. But actually we are seeing this in our day-to-day life every day, but for some reason we want to be unaware or don't want to accept that fact. Let's come to the second part, uncertainty. What has ever been certain, for God's sake? Even when you're carrying a child and you deliver a child, you don't know when exactly you're going to deliver. You don't know, what sex will that child be of. You don't know how the child's health, face, body will be. You don't know how that child is going to behave, whether the child will even speak or walk or not. Nothing, for God's sake, is known. And no advancement in science has yet made it certain for us. 100% certain. So certainty is not part of this life at all. Even things that happen for certain in our own lives, after some time, when you want to think about it, it's kind of hazy. You're not sure whether that's how it happened. And this is when you're talking about your own life. This is how forgetful our senses are. This is how powerful our mind is, which could get imaginative and even change the facts of our own life, what to talk about somebody else. Everything we know is a perception. There is nothing probably called as a fact because we don't know what is that fact. I think this is what happened with me. But if there's another person with me at that very time, witnessing what happened, that person's version, explanation, perception of what happened could be very different, isn't it? So let's accept this, that nothing was ever certain. We thought nothing is in our control, nothing, we know zilch, we know nothing. So let us accept that humble position. Trust me, that will be better for us. Become aware of how small we are in this whole universe. How powerless we are actually. And we are those kind of individuals who have been gifted with some power for a purpose, but because we don't even care to find out what is that purpose or what is that power and what is it meant to be utilized for, we are actually misfiring and kind of misusing what we have and wasting this entire lifetime. So uncertainty, it's nothing new. It's not related to any corporate or anything. Life by itself is like that. So the earlier we understand this life is going to be like that, there are many forces that are controlling things. Only thing we can be certain about is that as and when things come to us, if we utilize all the faculties that have been provided to us and we know how to utilize it, we will be probably able to tackle that situation in the best possible manner and come out with the learning that we are supposed to come out with. Sometimes the worst of the things that it seems like a pandemic can be the most opportunistic or best thing that you might find happening around. So let's become aware of that. Let's go to the fourth one, ambiguous, right? Ambiguity. Best example, I think, is what we call as spiritual. There's a lot of information that we think is available on this subject. Religion, spirituality, or even life. But frankly, in spite of all that information being available, how to interpret and understand that information is critical. And many of us lack that knowledge that is required to have the right interpretation and understanding of the information that is already available on this subject. For example, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, this session is about Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is available for all of us to read. No problem accessing it. But then once we access, do we know which one to access because there are so many variations of it? Once we access, do we really know how to understand the information that is provided there? Do we know how to interpret it ourselves or know which interpretation to go with? That is the crux of the story. So in life is pretty interesting if you see that way. So just living the life, understanding life and living in the way it's meant to be lived is a pretty interesting story. But we have made it pretty mechanical, pretty certain. This is how things should happen. You should study like this by this age. You should start walking, talking, reading, speaking. And by this time, you are supposed to start, finishing your graduation. And by this time, you should have then got into a job. The job should ideally pay you this much. Then in this time, you should have at least gone to this level. By this time, you should have a house. By this time, you should have a car. By this time, you should have this much of money saved up. By this time, you should have seen the world around you. All these standardizations, who is making it? I don't know. We are getting into depression because we think we are not fitting into something the way we are meant to fit. We are causing depression for others around us because we are also judging them and putting pressure on them based on these kind of standardized structures that we find around us. God knows who has created and with what agenda it has been created. So friends, the idea is become aware of what's happening to you in your life and see how you can utilize the knowledge that is available in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is like the manual on how to live. How we can utilize the knowledge that is available to actually make this life the way it's meant to be and live it the way it's meant to be. Let's look at the version 2.0 of Vyuka. Vision, understanding, courage, and adaptability. This is what you need. You need knowledge first. You need awareness. You need to become aware and you need to prepare yourself. You need to know what to anticipate when things happen. How do you face? How do you evolve from everything you face? And when things happen, how are you supposed to intervene in that? How you need to have courage in those times, how you need to have faith, Shraddha in those times. On what? How we have to be adaptable. We won't be able to change everything around us. Sometimes we will need to adapt ourselves, or probably most of the times. How do we do that? That's the issue. In fact, there are certain psychometric tests being used. I was just reading about it to check your cognitive performance or intelligence. And you know what it says? They check or they track using psychometric on how you process information when faced with unfamiliar, dynamic, and vague data. If this is intelligence, then everything about judging anybody or even having the distinction to judge good, bad, we need to see how people react when situations come and challenging situations come. Where do we belong? So even the categorization of people today in the corporate world, people are talking about categorizing people according to the way they respond to challenging situations. Same thing Bhagavad Gita has said, understanding our innate characteristic. When we face life, how we behave intrinsically actually puts us in that category where we belong. And then depending on where we belong, Srimad Bhagavad Gita is giving us the way to live that life and what is our dharma or prescribed duty depending on where we belong, so that we make the most of our life. And what do I mean by making the most of your life? Not just making money, not just having name, fame, blah, blah. It's about how your life can be precious for the world around you. How can you contribute? How can you become a great contributor? We talk about leaving a legacy. I don't know if people should remember you or not. That need not be your purpose. But think of that little satisfaction, Remember one time when you see somebody who is really hungry. Forget a person, okay? Look at a bird thirsty, if you have ever come across that. And you just happen to feed the bird with water. Or you have found a little pup that is really hungry and you just gave a little milk or a biscuit. And look at the lifelong feeling of gratitude. Now we have been gifted with so much in our lives. You think for nothing, just to eat, drink and be merry and enjoy this life? Let's be a little more responsible. Let's see how we can utilize with gratitude what we have been given. But then put our life to also use in some fashion so that we go back with a satisfied, content smile on our face every night when we go to bed and put our head on that pillow. And maybe one such day will be the last day when we exist in this world. And we go completely in a content way. That's what life is about. So with this, friends, I would like to stop the sharing. I hope what I shared, you found it useful. I would like to use the rest of the session for taking up any questions that anyone may have. So thank you for joining in, being there, and please start sharing. If you can ask if you can just tell me on the chat, whoever is ready to ask a question, I'll request you to unmute yourself, ask the question, or you can even type your question on the chat box and I'll take it up. It doesn't have to be related only to what we spoke. It could be a comment. It could be some sharing that you want to do related to that. Just keep it brief, please, but you can do that. And you can also ask question related to Bhagavad Gita, preferably chapter 1 and 2, which we have covered so far in our recording. Anybody has any questions? Manjushri, Hare Krishna. I'll wait for your questions. In the meantime, I'll just continue sharing something slowly so that I can stop, whenever I find somebody raising their hand for a question. So the issue is, friends, today we all are dealing with this pandemic. It's difficult. Life has come to a standstill and we don't know the way forward. Let us not just dwell in fear, just get depressed, and waste this opportunity. Let's introspect. We have been given this opportunity to stop. Let's stop, let's pause, let's introspect and see the direction in which we are going so far. Can we gain more in-depth knowledge about, is that the right direction for us? Is that the right way to continue our life? And if not, how can we prepare ourselves in this time so that when life comes back to being whatever normal it's going to be, then we are ready to move forward in the direction we want to move forward with the right kind of knowledge and awareness we would have got because of the introspection that we have done utilizing this time. If you're going through, look at it this way, yeah, change is constant. Some are drastic. So there are people who are losing employment. There are employers who are losing their employees, skilled employees. There are, some of us who, as on today, may not have an issue, but are fearing that tomorrow, about which we know nothing. So let's relook at what we should be doing. Manjushri, thank you for asking this question. Life is a pre-recorded play. We all come and act. Can you explain it? Now, I do not know, first of all, Manjushri, where have you heard that? Because this is not a complete statement of truth. There are so many things being, we are being fed with in this life. Don't get brainwashed by that. Question it, and I'm glad you are questioning it, and you're questioning it in a group where you might find that clarity of an answer. And the fact that you're questioning is you're not very convinced about it. While, as I have mentioned in our earlier sessions, there are certain things that are predestined. Now, predestined, pre-recorded, you may think it's the same thing, but that also is because of our own actions that we are in the action-reaction cycle. So in that sense, yes, it is predestined. We have already caused the cause and the effect has to happen. However, at every point in time, we have a choice how we therefore want to act now onwards so that we have a predictable outcome or a reaction of it. So if you think that, every time, this actually teaches us that every time we decide to act, we have a free will or a choice to act the way we want. There are always multiple choice answers provided to us by life. We are always at crossroads, if you agree with me, what I mean, if you understand. We're always at crossroads. Every moment when we have to make small decisions, even starting at what time to get up. Do I get up? You have a choice to get up or not to get up. Do I go for a walk? You have a choice to go or not to go. Which direction do I go for a walk? How long do I go for a walk? What do I cook for my breakfast? Right? Do I go to take bath? Do I pray? Don't I pray? How long? What do I do? At every moment before we act, we have choices. And every moment before acting, whether we know it or not, whether we do it consciously or not, we are taking decisions consciously or unconsciously and making our choices. So even if your today seems like a pre-recorded play from your past that you have no idea about or no control about, idea is be intelligent and use your current action in such a way that your future is secured. And the best way to actually secure the future is to try and get out of this material world of action and reaction, where our intelligence is covered and contaminated. If we are really intelligent and we can come to that stage of understanding, then you know what is our hurry, what should be our hurry, to really prioritize gaining of the knowledge and adapting stuff that we understand to just get out of this material world once and forever, and then stop this whole drama of going through reaction of what we have done and again being cautious at every moment of what we do. Once we go to a realm where our consciousness, where our intelligence is pure, there is no scope of doing mistake. When we are utilizing ourselves in every way possible for how and what we are meant to do, it is just bliss. Content is not the word. Content is what you can be at most in this world when you really act right and for lifetimes. But bliss is what we can experience permanently if we know how to transcend from this world, this plane, to the spiritual plane. And it is possible. Spiritual plane is the real home for our spirit soul. That's our real home. This is a place we have come visiting. Let's go. So I hope, Manjushri, I might have oversaid in my answer, but I hope it makes sense to you. So not everything is pre-recorded here. Some things are happening in our life as a reaction of what we have done, but still we have a choice every moment of how we act now. And this is getting recorded for our future. That's all we need to understand. If earlier it has been a recording, live recording was happening. Now also the live recording is happening. Let us be aware of that. So anybody else having any other questions? Otherwise, I would like to start concluding this session. And I'm glad to see Shweta. Thank you for joining. Long time. And the rest of you have been quite regular. Sunita ji, Manjushri, Ramanjaneyalu, thank you so much for being so regular. And Manjushri, thank you. I am happy and content that you see some explanation of your question and it helps you. So what I'll do, friends, in that case is start, concluding this session. So please understand, for a fact, we are in a VUCA world. But if you really want to be prepared to face this VUCA world, then acquire the knowledge on how to face this world, how to even understand the volatility, the uncertainty, the ambiguity, or the complexity of this world, so that you know how to respond to this VUCA world. That is what I would like to leave as a thought with all of you. And Srimad Bhagavad Gita is definitely something that I have benefited from personally and has helped me understand how to live my life. So I have this confidence that this will help you too. And I'm glad to be a small instrument in trying to, get you that benefit. And thank you, Shweta. Yes, I did see you one more time. But yeah, if you can be regular and if you have any questions, I will also add you to the WhatsApp group I have. And there also you can, post your questions anytime you have it, or even as we start every session, Anybody having a question can start posting it in the chat, or wait for the time when we open for Q&A and you can actually ask your question yourself. So thank you, friends. Thank you for joining in. I would like to conclude the session today, and I wish you all the very best. Stay safe, stay safe, stay safe. I mean, please do not venture out. Don't be courageous unnecessarily. Risk is important, risk is necessary, but take it only if it is necessary and in the way it should be taken, which is called calculated risk. So let's be smart, let's be intelligent as we are meant to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Take care, ma'am.
Manjushri, take care. Hare Krishna.
Bye. Hare Krishna, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Tata.